Travis Wesley was having one of his most frustrating days yet. After all, it's not every day that your 23-year-old beautiful wife tells you she's going to date other men, starting tonight. Travis just sat at the kitchen table with his hand around his glass of monkey shoulder scotch. He hadn't taken a sip of the amber liquid in 10 minutes, just sat staring straight ahead, not seeing, not hearing, but definitely feeling, sick as a dog. Travis knew there wasn't enough Alka-Seltzer in the world to make his stomach stop hurting. He'd heard stories of other people's wives telling them they were going to date other men, but he'd always assumed it was just an urban legend. How could a woman assume that her loving husband would allow her to date other men with other men? He knew what the word cuckold meant, but he just couldn't believe that a woman could be so callous to her own husband, so blatantly selfish in her desires. Until 45 minutes later. Of course, it was Monday. But it had been a good day at the firm where Travis worked, and he'd even walked out the door a few minutes after 5 p.m. whistling a cheery tune. He was still feeling pretty chipper when he walked into the house and found his wife sitting at the kitchen table, sipping a glass of red wine, with a glass and bottle of his favorite whiskey in its usual place. He put down his briefcase and poured himself 3 fingers of the liquid before sitting back in his chair. "What's the mystery here, Lauren?" asked Travis, noticing the crooked half-smile on his wife's face. His wife looked him straight in the eye and smirked. He saw a wicked expression in her gaze. He moved nervously in his chair. "Do you think, Trav, I've been a good wife and mother all these years?" she asked nonchalantly. Travis furrowed his brow. His wife knew he was a quiet, brooding man, and she could practically see the wheels turning in his head before he answered. "Yes, I do. So? Do you think I should get some kind of reward?" she asked in the same blank tone. A few more seconds passed while Travis carefully considered the question again. A reward for doing what a good wife and mother should do? Do I get rewarded for doing what a good husband and father should do? "What the hell are you asking me, Lauren?" asked Travis irritably. "Travis, I want to go on a date with another man tonight," she said, calm as a lake on a perfect morning. Travis was glad he was sitting down. He could feel the bile rising in his body. His thoughts were like a freshly scrubbed chalkboard, completely blank. A date? With difficulty, he squeezed out of himself. With another man? Lauren looked at her husband like a careless child. She nodded slowly. "Yes, with another man, Trav. I haven't been on a date with another man since you and I became exclusive 24 years ago. I've been a good wife to you, a good mother to the kids, and I deserve a date night with another man, a chance to try someone new. Not someone to love, but someone to... fun. Just fun," she said. "I'm 47, and I'm not going to be beautiful forever. I want to experience more men while I'm still a desirable woman and can get them by snapping my fingers." Travis's lower jaw slowly dropped. He knew he'd heard his wife's words correctly, but she couldn't have meant it, could she? He didn't even have to ask the question. Lauren nodded her head at him, as if reading his mind. "Damn," he muttered as she rose from the table and headed up the stairs to the bedroom to change. When Lauren came downstairs, she looked stunning in a little black dress that practically molded to her gorgeous 5'5" body. It came to mid-chest in the front with no bra and barely reached mid-thigh. Her makeup was light. A beautiful woman needs a lot of makeup, and her long blonde hair was gathered into a high ponytail. It was a stunning moment. Lauren could see that in that moment she belonged completely to her husband. Then, "I'm not going to let this happen, Lauren," Travis said, getting up from the table. "I don't know what you're allowing yourself, but you won't do this, and you will remain my wife." Lauren's beaming smile turned into an ugly grin. "You're not going to ruin this night for me, Trav. You may talk tough, but you know you won't divorce me over this. Where are you going to find a woman like me if you let me walk away? You won't, and you know it, and the kids will be mad at you for ruining our family." "Agree, Travis. Let me have fun for a few years, and then we'll be just you and me again and grow old together. You know you love me. You don't want to be alone for the rest of your life while I have my choice of men." A car horn sounded. Lauren grabbed a small bag and walked over to Travis, trying to kiss him goodbye. Her husband flinched, as if from a mild shock, and recoiled to the side. For a moment, Lauren looked surprised and hurt. Then her expression changed to anger. "I'll be home when I get back," she snapped, walking away. He watched in horror as she walked out the door. Had his 23-year marriage come to an end? It looked like it. Lauren didn't even look back at him as she walked out the door. Scientists have established a sad but true fact. People with good looks have an advantage in life over their more ordinary peers. They make friends more easily, people pay more attention to them, and teachers tend to give them better grades. In Lauren's case, things worked out just fine. She quickly realized that if she flapped her eyes and smiled, she could get almost any boy she wanted. Like virtually every boy she came in contact with, Travis had fallen under Lauren's spell almost from the first time he met her. His family had moved to town this summer, just before he went into 8th grade. He met Lauren on the first day of school and was quickly charmed. Travis was a pretty good athlete and was popular with the other students. Eventually, he worked up the courage to ask Lauren out on a junior high school-style date, and she accepted. They became a couple and lasted until the first few weeks of their freshman year at the local high school, when Lauren dumped the young man in favor of a junior, Landon Estes, who was a starter on the high school soccer team. Travis was 5'4", 110 pounds as a freshman, while Estes was 6'2", 190 pounds. Although his feelings were hurt, Travis accepted his fate. He realized that Lauren wasn't a good match for him in looks. What's more, most of the boys at school were out of Lauren's league when it came to looks. By virtue of dating a soccer player, Lauren was socializing with the popular guys at school. Travis was one of the faceless minions roaming the hallways. He dated and befriended select students, but never socialized with Lauren Soames again during their high school years. He noted that the few times she had come face-to-face with him, she had acted as if he was a complete stranger. The first time it happened, he got angry, but then he learned to accept it. By his senior year of high school, Travis had grown 9 inches and gained 40 pounds. He was a handsome and athletically built young man, but he was a long way from Lauren. Of course, not many people were like that. He went to the prom with his attractive but not spectacular girlfriend. Lauren was the prom queen, and her date was the prom king. After high school, Travis enrolled at Michigan State University to study accounting. During the 4 years of study, he met with several girls, but he did not have serious novels. Lauren was a marketing major at Central Michigan. She dated and slept with a lot of men during her college years, including a marketing professor when she needed to turn a B into an A. By pure coincidence, they both got jobs in Grand Rapids after college graduation. About a year after graduation, Travis and a few of his co-workers were enjoying a Friday night meal and socializing at a popular bar restaurant when Lauren and 2 women walked in. All heads immediately turned to look at the spectacular woman in the green dress. Lauren hardly paid any attention to it because at this point everything was expected, and she was used to it. "Who is this goddess?" wheezed Steve White to the entire table of co-workers. Before he could consider his words, Travis reflexively replied, "That, ladies and gentlemen, is Lauren Soames." Everyone at the table turned their heads from the woman to Travis, many of them mouths agape. "You've met her?" one of them asked incredulously. Travis grimaced. He hated drawing attention to himself, any attention. "I was about 14. As soon as we moved on to middle school, I was toast, and she ignored me all 4 years like I was the invisible man," he said quietly. "So do you at least have a good groping story?" joked one of the women at the table. "Hell, I'd grop him in a heartbeat, and I'm pretty sure I'd be doing just fine at least at this table." The whole team broke into unrestrained laughter. It made Lauren and her friends look over at each other. For a second, she thought she recognized one of the men at the table, but she wasn't sure. The trio sat down at a nearby table, with Lauren sitting facing the table of the man she thought she knew. "Dude, you're not going to go over and say hi to that walking wet dream, are you?" inquired White. "Jesus, Steve, you're drooling. Very unimpressive," said the first interviewee, Casey Gardello. She pretended for 4 years that she didn't know me. I don't know why she brings me up now, Travis said. Several people nodded in agreement. Lauren continued to study the man while enjoying her food. Then she snapped her fingers and pointed at the man. Not cool, Lauren, one of her friends said. If you point at someone in a restaurant, you might get offended in some places. Lauren ignored her friend's remark. I'll be right back, she announced. I need to say hi to an old friend. Lauren practically jumped up from her chair and walked over to the table where Travis was sitting. Trav, hi, it's really good to see you, exclaimed Lauren, walking over to him. Travis rolled his eyes at his friends and then turned to face his former classmate with a fake happy expression on his face. Lauren, good to see you, Travis said with almost no emotion in his voice as he rose to his feet. Lauren stepped into Travis's personal space and kissed him gently on the lips, placing her hands on his shoulders. His co-workers sat stunned. Travis, in turn, was stunned as well. Lauren realized this and gave him a not entirely innocent smile. She felt very comfortable playing this game and knew it was far beyond him. Let's go to our table and I'll introduce you to the girls, she said. She took his hand and practically dragged him behind her to their table. He spent most of the rest of the evening with Lauren and her two friends. Before he left, Lauren took his cell phone, got his number, and put in her own. Lauren was more than intrigued that Travis seemed to be indifferent to her. That had never happened to her before. He was polite in the restaurant, but spent as much time talking to her two friends as he did with her. She kissed him on the lips several times during the evening, but he never once returned the kiss. On Monday morning, Travis's co-workers who were at the bar with him pounced on him, wanting to know how his relationship with the goddess had turned out. They were stunned when he told them he stayed for about another hour and then headed home alone. She's amazing, but she's 14 levels above me. I get it, he growled. I don't need that kind of aggravation. That kind of aggravation was waiting for Travis in the parking lot outside his workplace 2 Friday afternoons later when he got off work. He grumbled to himself as he saw her waiting for him at his car. Why didn't you ever call, Trav? She said. They drove to a restaurant off the road and enjoyed a nice meal. That night they had a memorable time. Although Travis had his doubts about this woman, mostly related to her sense of self-worth, their relationship was slowly getting better. Her beauty was obvious, but he was slowly falling in love with who Lauren was. He bought an engagement ring, but before he proposed to her, they sat down and discussed their thoughts on fidelity. She impressed him, but Travis wanted nothing left unsaid between them. Obviously, I know a little about your past. I'm not going to ask for numbers or names, Travis said as they sat down at the table for a serious conversation. What was in the past will remain in the past. The same goes for me. But I need to know about the future. From now on, I want us to be exclusive. Completely. No ifs, ands, or buts. If you honestly don't believe you can do this for us, I need to know now. If you can, well. He placed a small black box on the table between them. Lauren looked directly into Travis's eyes and then back at the box. I will never cheat on my husband. Never. Travis opened the box. Asterisk, 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 asterisk. I will never cheat on my husband. Never. Travis remembered those words. Apparently his wife didn't consider it cheating, since she'd warned him beforehand. But he knew better. She'd hoped. She hoped he'd see it that way, because if he didn't, he didn't. Travis knew that Lauren had had plenty of opportunities to cheat over the years, and as far as he could tell, she'd rejected all of those opportunities like a good wife should. She was a 10, hell, she was a 12, and he considered himself a 6 at best. That left plenty of room for someone closer to her physical level to sneak in and make themselves known. Assuming she hadn't had an affair he didn't know about, she'd been a real wife for 23 years. Travis knew he should be grateful for those years, but he wasn't. When he said, I love, he wanted it to be forever, not a measly 23 years. Truth be told, not a week went by that Lauren didn't get a proposal from someone, not just men. She knew that she wasn't just beautiful, she was stunning, a rare goddess among simply beautiful women. When God created his wife, he had an extraordinary day, Travis always said. At first, Lauren told Travis every time she was courted, trying to be completely transparent. But after a few years, Travis told her that he trusted her enough that she didn't need to lay it all out for him. The only time he wanted to know she was being hit on was if the person didn't take her first rejection. Then, he would take the necessary steps to blow the offender off. Travis, on the other hand, was rarely hit on by women. Part of the reason for this was that he used his wedding ring almost as a shield. Within minutes of meeting a woman, Travis would mention his wife and children in enthusiastic tones, which usually shot down any sparks that might have flared up. He never realized what he was doing, and it turned off most women before they even had a chance to flirt. Lauren hadn't realized that her husband was turning off potential flirts, or worse. The almost fairy tale marriage lasted 22 years before Rosa Esposito entered the proverbial Garden of Eden, or rather, went to work at the same public relations firm as Lauren. To quote a Bob Seger song, she was a dark-haired beauty with big brown eyes. She attracted men the way a strong magnet attracts metal. In any other office, she would have been an alpha female, but at Superior Solutions, she was at best a loyal assistant to the most beautiful woman on the planet. Rosa, 42, had been married for 15 years, but she said she wasn't a fanatic about it. She had a few affairs with her husband's knowledge, and a few more without his knowledge, and she often shared stories about her adventures with Lauren. She was a very good storyteller. "So you haven't tried anyone since you got married? You're a rock woman, but I don't believe you don't want to," Rose said one day during a coffee break at work. "Well, I'm not saying I'm not interested, but I would never cheat on Travis," Lauren said. In recent months, Lauren has noticed that on several occasions she hasn't seemed to be getting as much attention from men at bars and restaurants as she used to. She noticed that more than once, younger women were getting the looks that used to be directed in her direction. She began to doubt her visual persuasion abilities. "Let's play the what-if game. What if Hubs had let you take a sample? What then?" asked Rose. It was obvious from the look on Lauren's face that she had never thought of this scenario before. The wheels in her head were spinning frantically. "I guess if I had permission, then it would be a whole different story," Lauren admitted with a sheepish grin. "Have you never thought about asking permission?" asked Rose. "You know that anything worth having is worth asking for." Lauren had never thought about it before. Her face lit up, then lowered. "He'll never give me permission. Never," Lauren said. "Do I have to do all the work here?" asked Rose. "Unspoken permission. Tell him and then take what you want, regardless of his answer. Tell him he loves you enough to let you do it. You can get through this because it has nothing to do with love. You only love him." Travis was awakened by the sound of a car pulling up to the house. Glancing at the clock, he realized it was a few minutes after 3 in the morning. Glancing at the bottle of Woodford Reserve, he realized he'd finished about half of it. "Big night, huh?" he teased Lauren as she walked through the front door. Travis looked closely at the cliché his wife had turned into. Her hair was combed but disheveled, her makeup was missing, her clothes looked rumpled. She looked far from remorseful but smug. "I could have told you the same thing," she hissed. "You didn't have to wait, you know." "I'm going to bed. Are you coming?" "Maybe never again in my life with you," he snapped back. Lauren threw him a look of disgust and headed up the stairs. Travis poured 3 more fingers of bourbon into his glass and went back to watching ESPN. Travis spent the night in his lazy boy chair, half napping, half drinking, his stomach churning. Around 9, he finally got up from his chair and made himself breakfast. As he ate, he heard the shower turn on in the master bathroom. "Here comes the slut," he thought to himself. Under normal circumstances, Travis would have expected his wife to come downstairs in a bathrobe and with her hair wrapped in a towel. This morning, she hadn't come downstairs for about an hour, and when she did, she was dried, dressed, and wearing makeup, looking as flawless as ever. He'd expected nothing less. "Did you happen to leave me anything to eat?" she asked. "I brewed a large pot of coffee, but you'll be eating on your own." And as long as you're being domestic, I think now would be a good time to talk, he stated emphatically. Lauren was surprised at how unemotional Travis seemed. She had expected him to be just frothing at the mouth and irrational, which meant he would be easier to manipulate. A rational Travis would make the conversation much harder, she reasoned to herself. Do you want to know about last night? She asked softly. Travis caught a note of superiority in her tone. Did she really think he wanted to know about how cuckolded he was? Hardly. I want to know how you see this marriage going forward, said Travis, his voice no louder than hers. As I said yesterday, I intend to try a few other men over the next couple of years. But that's not love. I only love you, but I want to try a few more men while I still have my looks and body. I have given you everything for 23 years. I have never had a thought of cheating. I want a thrill, some weirdness. You're great in bed, but I want a change. You know, get some different experience for a while, and then you and I will ride off into the sunset together. And I'll be grateful for the experience and spoil you exclusively for the rest of our lives, Lauren said. Travis listened intently as Lauren spoke while she made toast and jam for her coffee. It seemed to him that the way she was making toast while talking about the most important thing in his life was rather nonchalant. He had so many questions. Is this all about you wanting variety? You can't get enough of me, he wheezed. She started to answer, but he interrupted her. So you want to have an open marriage for a few years and then go back to monogamy sometime in the future? Does that mean I'll be able to date other people? Lauren tried unsuccessfully to suppress a giggle. The very thought of her sweet, quiet husband asking out another woman was ridiculous. Travis was the most married man she'd ever met. However, if that was what it took to get him to consent. In principle, yes, she replied. Of course, I'm assuming it would just be a fun thing for you too. Travis raised his eyebrows and shrugged. Lauren had no idea of the move. She did, however, have one thought. So, do you want to go on a date with Rosa? You know, a very pretty woman from my office. I'm sure she'd love to say yes, Lauren said, knowing that her friend would have no problem entertaining her husband, especially if it meant helping Lauren achieve her goal of having fun with other men and still being married. Travis looked puzzled. I'd love a date with Rose, but no thanks, babe. That would make me a total slut, he said. Lauren's face started to blur into a smile, but then was quickly replaced by a grimace of anger. I'm not a whore, she shouted. If you insist, baby, he said much more seriously than she might have expected. I'm still not agreeing to it. Well then get over it, babe, because I'll do it even if you don't agree to it, she hissed. Rose walked into Lauren's office Monday morning around 11 and found that Lauren didn't look happy. To hell with that prude and the horse he rode in on, hissed Lauren, closing the office door behind Rosa. Hell, he even turned down a date with you. Rose frowned. I didn't realize I was on the menu. But the hell with it. How could he turn something like that down? She said, stroking her body with her hands. What about the date? Did you have a good time or did Travis ruin it? Rosa asked. The date was fantastic, Lauren enthused. Who do you think I should try next? Both women laughed heartily. Lauren was thrilled that she hadn't been served with divorce papers right away. Since she and her husband had barely spoken, she decided it was wise not to ask about his plans at all. Although he hadn't told his wife about it, Travis really didn't want to rush the divorce. He hoped she would quickly come to her senses and abandon her foolish cuckold plans. He believed that he could forgive her, and they could forget her misbehavior if she would stop this foolishness. His hopes were bolstered when Lauren didn't go on a date the following week, even though he still hadn't returned to the bedroom, and they still hadn't communicated in a positive way. The following Friday night, however, Lauren was once again dressed to the hilt, obviously ready for a date. Are you seriously going to do this again? With the same guy, or are you going to entertain someone new this week? Said Travis sharply. Damn, Trav, didn't you listen to a word I said? This isn't about you. It's about me. And my desire to get something before I got too old to attract anyone. It's not that I want you any less. I just want more and different. You know I get hit on all the time? I just want to enjoy it. I'll always come back to you. What if I don't want you to come back to me? I won't share you. I won't sit back while you have fun. I'm not made for that. I won't wait for you to try half the male population of our town. I wasn't sure when you had your first date, but I think I could get over it. Once might have been extreme stupidity, but twice is extreme disrespect, extreme betrayal. Go out all night. Stay forever. We're done. I wasn't put on this earth to take shit from you. Wah, 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 she said, making talking motions with the fingers of her right hand. You know you don't want to lose me. This doesn't have to be an either-or situation. Travis had instructed his attorney to prepare the paperwork last week, hoping it wouldn't be necessary. He was going to call his wife Monday morning, but first he needed to call his 2 daughters and tell them about it. Neither Jackie, 21, nor Michelle, 19, believed their father when he called them that evening, at least at first glance, but after talking to both of them, he found that the older daughter guessed something was wrong. You knew she was going to pull this shit and you didn't tell me? He yelled over the phone. Don't you think I've earned the right to know what's going to happen? Please, Daddy. I've been put in a very difficult position. One of you will not be happy with me, no matter how I play it. Besides, it's her body. It doesn't belong to you. And if she wants to share it, don't, yelled Travis. I realize she put you between us, but don't give me that she can do what she wants, when she wants, because it's her body. We gave oaths above speech about her body. I, she muttered briefly, then fell silent. Shit, baby. I'm sorry, Daddy, she whispered. Lauren was shocked and embarrassed when the divorce papers were handed to her in the office Monday morning. She burst into tears and ran to the ladies' room. Rose emerged a few minutes later, having heard the commotion. You should have known he would at least make you file the papers, Rosa said. You hurt him badly, baby. This is his way of hurting you back. It's kind of like that. Men are such babies. He's trying to force his hand on you. He's not going to give up a 23-year marriage and half his stuff. Give him a week to be alone and live on his own, and he'll come crawling back. Straightening up, Lauren returned to her desk, picked up her phone, and immediately dialed her husband's number. How could you do this to me? In the office, in front of everyone. I know you're hurting, but I deserved better than this, Trev, she practically screamed into the phone. After 23 years, didn't I deserve better than your unilateral decision to divorce our marriage? If I wasn't right for you, couldn't you have just given me advance notice, and we could have separated like civilized people? Travis said. I don't want civilized. I don't want a divorce. I still love you. You still love me, she wailed. I still love you, but that love diminishes every time you have fun with someone else, he growled. My love is not a bottomless well. Like you, I always thought it was. Who would have thought it was? We were both wrong. Lauren fought the divorce. Her attorney had asked for and received marriage counseling, even though Travis was adamantly opposed. Lauren smiled, and Travis frowned as they were led into the inner sanctum of the counselor's sanctuary and caught Lillian Camacho at one of the chairs behind the counselor's desk. Most marriage counselors believe their job is to reconcile divorcing couples, and female counselors seem to lean in favor of women. The couple took 2 of the 3 available seats at the table. The counselor cleared her throat, signaling that she would begin. I've read both of your cases and seen both of your statements, Miss Camacho began. Let's start with a simple one. Mrs. Wesley, did you actually tell your husband that you were going to be seeing other men for several years? Now, Travis was trying hard not to let the counselor see his smirk. Lauren was trying hard not to let the counselor see how shocked she was. She thought about lying, but then realized she had no cover for that lie. Yes, I told him that, she replied quietly. It's something I want, don't need, for him to do for me. It won't affect our marriage. Well, I guess we'll call it a day, the counselor said. I'm sorry to have wasted your time, Mrs. Wesley. I'll talk to the judge and get this whole mess over with. But, 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 stuttered Lauren. Honey, if you thought for 1 minute that what you did to your husband would go away with me, you're out of your mind. You should be ashamed of yourself, but apparently you don't have an ounce of shame in you. Frankly, you disgust me, Miss Camacho said. For the next month, Lauren called and texted Travis several times a day as he rented a small apartment near his home. He didn't return her calls or texts, so she enlisted the help of their daughters, who called several times. Dad, you know you still love her. If she stopped seeing other men, would you give her another chance? Asked Michelle during one of those calls. So she's still doing it even after I forced her to serve? Asked Travis in a trembling voice. All he got in response was silence. That was all the answer he needed. Michelle never called again to ask him to try again. Travis was surprised at how quickly word of his impending divorce spread, especially among single women. Several women at his work had expressed condolences about his marital problems, as had several women who were friends of both himself and his wife. He was smart enough to realize that not all of their condolences were altruistic. Connie Myong, a longtime friend of his wife's, had called to express her regret for what was happening in Travis's life. She not so subtly offered him a shoulder to cry on. Travis was shocked that his wife's close friend was hitting on him so openly. In all the years they'd known each other, the divorced woman had never once cast even an oblique glance at him. I would never pursue a friend's husband. It's just wrong, she told him. But now that you're a free man, though the rules are different, I'm letting you know I'm interested in you. I'm shocked. I'm flattered. But I'm not a free man yet, Connie, and I won't date until the divorce is final. I know what I'm doing is stupid, but I won't cheat, Travis said. You're such a Boy Scout, Trav. That's one of the things I like about you. Always have. Can I at least get a date when you're free? Said Connie. Sure, said Travis, but I don't want to come between you and Lauren. You've been friends for years, after all. I appreciate your sensitivity, but just because she's a deadbeat doesn't mean I have to miss out on a good person. I wouldn't give it a second thought if you were just a strange guy and we just met, Connie said. How about I call you when the leash is down, joked Travis. Travis proved true to his word and called Connie the day his divorce became official. Saturday night, they went out to a restaurant and then to a local jazz club. They were both pleased with the date, and he promised to call again. Travis hadn't thought about taking off his wedding ring on the day of the final divorce, but apparently it was a big deal for single women. Noticing the empty spot on his ring finger, a few female coworkers noticed and commented on it, and suddenly the level of flirting in his office increased markedly. This was new to him, and one day at lunch he told his best friend in the office about it. There are a lot of beautiful women in this office. How did I not notice that before? Asked Travis. You, buddy, were just a bastard, said Robert Ardito. You were so much in love with this woman that you wouldn't even look at other women. And maybe that was part of the problem. She's constantly being tested. She has value. And you were so emasculated and gave off such a vibe that no woman would ever look at you. In the first month after his divorce, Travis went on 4 dates, 2 of them with Connie. He hadn't yet managed to sleep with any of the 3 women he dated, but that wasn't his goal. The second month, he was just as busy and slept with 2 women. Travis's daughters, who had had better communication with their mother than with their father in recent months, kept hearing her assertions that while she could get any man with just a snap of her fingers, their father was just an average man in his 40s and was having a hard time even finding a date, let alone a steady girlfriend. They started feeling sorry for their father, and one Saturday morning, about 2 months after the divorce, they showed up unannounced at his apartment. Travis wasn't happy to be woken up at 8:36, especially since he'd entertained his companion late the night before. Sonia, a lushly busty 25-year-old, was the daughter of a friend of a friend of a friend who needed a reliable girlfriend for a wedding reception. The evening went so well that the couple decided to end it at Travis's apartment. At that moment, she was asleep in his bed when he opened the door in his robe. What? He asked, as he swung the door open and saw the smiling faces of his daughters holding bags of bagels, lox, and cream cheese. "Hey, Dad, can't your two favorite daughters stop by with breakfast?" said Jackie as the couple entered the house. Travis kissed both of them on the cheek and led them to the kitchen table where they emptied the bags they were carrying in their hands. They were just stacking bagels when Sonia came out of the bedroom, wearing one of Travis's white shirts, half buttoned up, and probably nothing else. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were expecting company, kiddo," Sonia said. "Mom said you were a free agent." Both girls blushed as Sonia poured herself a cup of coffee. "No, no, Sonia. These are my daughters, Jackie and Michelle," he said, pointing to the daughter with the appropriate name. "They came in for breakfast. Bagel and lox?" Sonia giggled. They made small talk for a while until Jackie asked if Travis had talked to Lauren lately. He frowned, for the first time in days. Up until this point, he'd found it almost impossible to get upset when he was with Sonia, even though she was a little heavy for his 48-year-old body. "I have to tell you, Dad, we thought you'd miss Mom by now," Michelle said. "We know she misses you." "Huh. I would have thought that with me gone, she'd be living life to the fullest. I know I was a boat anchor for her. I thought she was knocking them 2 by 2 in our old bed." "Daddy," said Jackie while Sonia giggled and Michelle frowned. "She's not a slut, you know." "Really? Think about that for a second. How many guys has she slept with since we broke up? And that's only 2 that I know of before I left." Both girls blushed and lowered their heads. "Wow. 2 guys a month for, what, 10 months? That would be 20 different guys. 3 guys a month would be 30. Sounds like a lot to me," Sonia agreed. If looks could kill, Travis's daughters would drive Sonia to her grave in seconds. She was well aware of that fact. "Hey, don't blame me if a woman can't keep her legs closed," Sonia argued. Kids, we're not ruining my good weekend," Travis stated. "Sorry," all 3 young women muttered simultaneously. "So, you two are a couple?" Jackie asked Sonia quietly. "You don't look any older than me." "Your father says we're the same age, but don't worry, I'm not going to be your stepmother someday. We're just friends. He's a great guy. He was my date to the wedding reception last night. And he's kind of handsome. Did I mention he's a great guy too?" "Well, we have to agree that he's a great guy, even though we know he can be a bit of a jerk from time to time," Jackie said. "And yeah, he's kind of handsome. For a guy who's old enough to be your dad." It was Sonia's turn to blush. Travis blushed too. "Hey, babe, remember we have a lunch with the newlyweds' families at the hotel at noon. I need to shower and get some clothes from my apartment before we go," Sonia said. Both daughters rolled their eyes at their father. "Mom, she was my age," Jackie told her mother during lunch a few weeks later. "And it didn't seem like a one-and-done thing. They spent some time together. They enjoyed each other's company. I don't think he's going to come crawling back to you anytime soon, Mom." "No, you just caught him on a good day. He was probably helping a friend's child and got lucky. She's probably a whore who'll sleep with anyone. Your father's a great guy, but he's not a stud, Jackie." Jackie raised her eyebrows at her mother. "You always seemed pretty pleased with him, until you said you were going to leave him. Why didn't you just cheat on him without saying anything? Wouldn't that have been so much easier? You could have had your cake and eaten it." "That would have been cheating, Jackie, and if he'd caught me, then we'd be finished. By telling him, I wasn't cheating, and I was sure he'd give me what I wanted when he realized he was going to lose it. I have to admit, I didn't expect the divorce to happen. I never thought he'd have the guts for it." "Mom, I think you mistook love for weakness. And somewhere along the way, you decided it was up to you. Was it all worth it?" For the first time, Lauren's face reflected the strain of what she'd been through. Rose had said it was much better than it had turned out to be. But no, it wasn't worth it. She also couldn't tell her daughter that she'd never considered that Travis would do anything else but sit around and pine for his beautiful ex-wife. She was so wrapped up in herself that she didn't even realize that a handsome, though not gorgeous, man with great character, intelligence, and a solid job could be very much in demand in the single-man market, and not just middle-aged women. She knew that since the divorce, her ex-husband had dated several women, including her longtime friend Connie, and now some young woman. Instead of sitting at home and crying over his past life, he was dating like a lonely 20-year-old. She hadn't said anything to Connie when she found out her friend had gone out with her ex the first time, figuring it was some sort of pity date. But a second date was totally unnecessary, and she had informed Connie privately and in a rather loud tone. "I thought we were friends, Con," Lauren declared. "You're supposed to be on my side. We girls are supposed to have each other's backs." "But he hasn't done anything bad to you, Lauren. And he's a good guy, a great guy. He's everything I want to see in a man. Why don't I go on a date with Trev? Hell, women are lining up to go out with him. He's a beef on the hook, girl. And he's great for dating. And in bed, too. I'll go out with him anytime he asks me out. How could you turn a man like that away?" Lauren just stared at her friend with her mouth open. She was just beginning to realize that she was deluded. She loved Travis. She hated coming home to an empty house at the end of the day. She hated sleeping alone at night. Travis, of course, had no idea that his life would become as exciting as it had become. He would have been quite happy if his former, boring life had stayed the way it was, but regardless, life suited him just fine. He had a good job and his social life was top-notch. He enjoyed socializing with several women, and most of his dates ended in bed. He certainly wasn't looking for a long-term partner at the moment. There was more to life than being married to a beautiful woman. Marla Goodling's shoulder-length silver hair had several streaks of purple gathered into a ponytail coming out of a hole in the back of her Chicago Cubs baseball cap. She was 60 years old. In the left grandstand at Wrigley Field Stadium, she gathered more than enough stares. One of those looking at her appreciatively was the man she was with, Travis Wesley, the ex-husband of one of her longtime employees, Lauren Wesley. She and Travis had been to a Cubs game as part of their weekend trip to Chicago. Marla has worked with Lauren Wesley for over 15 years. She met Travis at several company events where he accompanied his then-wife and always thought he was a good-looking and nice guy. She knew that he and Lauren had divorced about 2 years ago. Marla had already been a widow for about 5 years, her longtime husband having been killed in a car accident. During that time, she had only had one date before she decided to get Travis's phone number. Yes, Travis remembered her. He thought it was hard to forget a woman who seemed to radiate both class and beauty. Would he like to go out to dinner with her? Absolutely, he replied. It had been a couple months before. Their first date had been at an upscale restaurant, after which they had gone to a concert at the Philharmonic, with Marla providing the tickets. The evening ended with the couple kissing at the front door of her home. The second date was a Saturday hike on the trails, and the woman giggled several times when a clearly tired Travis had to take short breaks during the day. Apparently, she and her late husband had been avid climbers and trail hikers, and while Travis thought he was in pretty good shape, it turned out he was wrong. He also learned that Marla had the trim body of an older woman, as well as mesmerizing gray eyes. The date ended with Marla and Travis making tender love on the rug in the living room of her home after they had a steamy kissing session on her couch. She intrigued him with her combination of wealthy class and the freshness of a girl from the neighborhood backyard. Marla happily agreed when Travis suggested she spend a weekend sightseeing in Chicago as part of their third date. On their first date, Marla told Travis that she had no intention of telling Lauren that they were dating. She wouldn't deny it if asked, but she wasn't going to advertise the fact. Marla also told Travis that Lauren had informed her coworkers that she and Travis were divorcing because of irreconcilable differences. Travis told Marla the same story he had told everyone else, that Lauren had cheated on him with at least 2 different men. He didn't elaborate any further. In the 2 years since his divorce, Travis had had several solid relationships and was enjoying what he thought was an amazing life. All of his female partners had a good opinion of him, and some of them hoped to be considered when Travis decided to trust women again and wanted to get married. Lauren, on the other hand, was working in a different direction. As she told her then-husband before their first date, She was simply looking for satisfaction, while she still had the looks to attract almost any man. She wasn't looking for an emotional relationship, and neither were most of her partners. That basic difference between the two former partners would become a problem for Jackie. She and her mother were immersed in planning the upcoming wedding, which her father was happy to pay for, when Lauren told her daughter that she thought both parents should attend the wedding without dating, so there would be less tension. Jackie quickly agreed with the idea and relayed it to her father that same week as they chatted over lunch. "Is this brilliant idea coming from you or your mother?" asked Travis hoarsely. "I'm planning on bringing a date. I'm paying for this party and I'm going to have a lot of fun with whoever I bring. Hell, I've been taking dance lessons for about a year now, ever since you announced your engagement." "You've been taking dance lessons? Seriously? Just for my wedding? That's so sweet." "But no buts, Jackie. Apparently she doesn't have anyone she considers close enough to invite, so she's trying to stall me too. Once again, she's being a selfish bitch and trying to manipulate the situation in her favor. Sorry, babe, but I'm not going as a bachelor party to my own daughter's wedding. If you don't have the guts to tell her that, I certainly will. She can go alone or bring a date. That's up to her." "I'll bring a date," Travis said. "I've got it, Dad. I'll tell her. Your reasoning is right, and I really want to see you dance. But you'll still want to bring someone older than me." "I can do that, baby. But you have to see Sonia and I dance." Travis smiled broadly and got a wide smile in return. For the wedding, Travis took Connie Myong with him. In Travis's opinion, she looked stunning in the sea green dress she bought, and he paid for. They argued over the fact that he had bought that dress. Travis explained to the woman that since he was the father of the bride and needed to be in a tuxedo, she needed a new dress, which he was happy to buy. "And yes, I realize you need shoes to go with it as well," he told her with a wide smile on his face. Walking his eldest daughter down the aisle had been one of the most pleasant and most unpleasant experiences of Travis's life. All the other fathers who had told Travis it would be like this had fallen flat, he noted to himself. Still, the day had been wonderful, he had to admit. He, Connie, and his kids had had fun and danced until late into the night. The only thing that had brought discord to the day was the appearance of his ex-wife with a date of her own. Not that Travis cared, but the date spent most of the first part of the wedding smirking at Travis, and then spent most of the second part of the night hitting on several women like an obnoxious drunk until Jackie asked her mother to remove the guest. Lauren, clearly embarrassed, apologized and quickly escorted the man out the door. Before leaving with her beau, Lauren still took the time to follow Connie into the women's restroom. "You man-stealing bitch," she said to Connie once they were in the restroom. "I'm sorry, but I've never stolen men from anyone," Connie replied. "He divorced you before we even started dating. You have no one to blame for that divorce but yourself. You gave up a great man for cheap entertainment." Lauren's face turned crimson. Her eyes, which at first had been gazing intently at the other woman, suddenly went blank. She lowered her head and stood motionless as Connie walked out the door. Connie didn't say a word to Travis or the family, as she didn't want to spoil the special day. A few months after the wedding, Michelle visited her father and looked fussy. Travis watched her for a while before popping the question. "Okay, Mitch, what's going on? You've been kind of jumpy all night," Travis said. Michelle blushed thickly and began to stutter. Travis realized something was wrong. "Dad, I know Mom has talked from time to time about getting back together with you, about how she's going to win you over when she stops having fun with other guys. You two, haven't been doing anything else, have you?" she asked. "My life is none of your business, young lady," snapped Travis. "But no, I didn't sleep with your mother." "Why?" "Because she has a venereal disease, Dad. I heard the end of her conversation with her friend Rosa, and she told her that she has syphilis," Michelle said quietly, not looking her father in the eye. Travis looked surprised and then sad as Michelle watched him out of the corner of her eye. "I assume you're telling me this because you care about me," Travis said. "But it's standard state policy to inform all possible recipients of the disease that they need to be tested." I didn't know that. I was just taking care of you, Dad, she said. I know Mom is still sleeping well. A few of my friends have warned me that she's a real slut. It's always awkward when a friend tells you your mom is a slut. A few days later, Travis received a nasty phone call from Marla. He immediately realized that she was concerned about the same thing Michelle was, although she obviously had her own health concerns as well. In case you're wondering if I slept with my ex, the answer is not just no, but hell no, Travis said. Believe me, Marla, I understand your concern, but there's nothing I can do if my ex is a piece of work. The billet is the nicest thing I've heard her say in a while, Marla said. In recent months, her outside activities have become the subject of gossip at the water cooler. It seems the longer she's been single, the less discreet she is. Lauren used her STD as a starting point in her plan to get Travis back. She was satisfied that she had gone through enough men to last the rest of her life, and had started her plan to get Travis back 6 months after the doctor said she was cured. She was still a little resentful of Travis for divorcing her the first time, which hadn't been part of her original plan. She figured her then-husband would never decide to divorce a woman like her, knowing that the odds of him being able to find another in her class were slim. The plan might have worked if Travis hadn't started being pursued by other women. Lauren had no doubt that she was a catch. She hadn't anticipated that Travis would feel the same attraction to other women. I know he's a great guy, but can't these women see that he's nowhere near my level? She said to Rosa one day, as the two women sipped margaritas at the bar, waiting for a date for the evening. Rosa nudged her friend toward her current lifestyle. She knew Travis was handsome enough, but had greatly underestimated the depth of his personality, also because he seemed to always be subservient to his wife. She expected Travis to just sit around and mope while his wife had fun with other men. Who would have thought Travis had so much game? Lauren and Rosa had been keeping tabs on Travis ever since Lauren had given him the ultimatum, and truth be told, it appeared that his life had been almost as full as Lauren's since the divorce became official. If Lauren had been more truthful with herself, she might have recognized that it seemed like her ex-husband's life had been much better emotionally. Travis dated and seemed to be genuinely having fun with his partners. Lauren was having fun with hers, although neither of them had contracted an STD. It had been a lingering period, she noted. Maybe it was time to reconnect them with Travis, Lauren concluded. Travis was more than surprised by the voice on the other end of the line. He hadn't spoken to his ex-wife in almost 2 years. One of his daughters must have given her his new cell phone number. He hadn't forbidden them to do so, but he said he didn't think it was appropriate to ever speak to her directly again. Hi, Trev, she purred in her most pleasant tone. I think it's time we had a talk. I thought we weren't going to talk until Michelle got married. But since that's not happening, why don't we go back to silence, said Travis. Still the same Travis. Still trying to deny that you don't love me. But you know you do. You know you want me back. Still the same Lauren, he replied. Still thinking everything revolves around you. Look, Trav, I realize you're still mad at me, but I really do love you. I probably should have just cheated on you and kept you in the dark, but that would have been cheating. It was still cheating, Lauren. Just because you told me you were going to do it doesn't make it any less true. You did it because you thought I would never give up on you. How pathetic do you think I am? Said Travis. I know you think you have 10, hell, you think you have 12, but it's more than that. You're great. I don't have to live in your shadow. As has been pointed out to me over the past few years, I'm not just the husband of a beautiful woman. Other women want what I have to offer, and are willing to repay me emotionally. The last few years have been great for me. Why would I want to date a selfish woman again who clearly has no respect for me, and no matter what she says, doesn't love me the way I loved her? Loved, past tense. Disconnecting, Travis put the phone down and turned to the woman beside him. Ready for round 2? He asked Sonia. Sonia eventually found her soulmate and married him, while Connie and Marla continued their relationship with Travis. He loved both of them in his own way, but never married again. They loved him in their own way too, and both women embraced this shared relationship. A few years later, they were invited to attend the wedding of his second daughter, Michelle, along with Travis. This did not please Lauren, who did not invite a single guest to this wedding. She nagged her daughter, but Michelle was not appeased. Next to me, Jackie and her family, Connie and Marla, are the two people closest to Daddy in the world, Michelle replied. They love Daddy for who he is and put him above their own selfish interests, which is something not everyone can say. You had him. You gave him away for extra entertainment. Why? Simply because you were afraid of getting old and thought he had no other options. He would never have given you up. Not for anything or anyone. Travis was happy with the way he was living his life, even if it wasn't his first choice. He had gotten out of a situation he thought was unacceptable. Lauren's life wasn't one of loneliness and remorse. After all, she was still a beautiful woman, and beautiful women often just need to show up for men to start hitting on them. Lauren was often hit on, and she had had quite a few short-term relationships. However, none of them developed into something long-term. In retrospect, Lauren had to admit that she repented telling her then-husband that she was going to leave him, only because she still couldn't understand how Travis had given up on her so easily. How she could have miscalculated so badly, she often wondered to herself. She was 12, and he was only 6. It wasn't supposed to end this way. The end. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. So subscribe to my channel and watch the next video.